Hey everyone, hope you've had a great weekend so far. The Shack series, episode 5, we've got Hayley Lewis coming on. So just wait for her to join, and she's just joined now. Hey Hayley, good, how are you?
I don't want to get too close. I'm 46, so I'm too close to the camera. So I'm giving myself. How you going?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure for us to get you on here and ask you a few questions that we've had from our followers and just questions in general that we would like to ask you, not only about your swimming career, but your small business that you've got in Balmoral called Coming Up Roses, your time as a host on The Biggest Loser, a book that you've written. Um, Geez, what else? And your uni degree. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it. So we'll start off with your swimming career first. So when did you start swimming, and what was your earliest memory of the sport?
Um, well, from what my parents have told me, is that level okay? Volume all right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Screaming down the phone. From what my parents have told me, I've got two older sisters, and it was a big priority for my parents to have us taught to swim. And where I lived at Cannon Hill growing up, couldn't have been a better location to be a swimmer, really. I was literally 50 metres from Cannon Hill State School swimming pool, and also 200 metres from one of the best learn to swim schools in Brisbane, which is actually still in Cannon Hill as of today, which is Holland Swim School. You might
Yeah.
be too, Jacob, but Steve was coached by Laurie Lawrence back in the day, and he was one of our greatest world record holders for the 1500 freestyle. So they lived at Cannon Hill and had a learn to swim pool in the backyard. And I remember mum and dad used to take my two older sisters to learn to swim. And I guess I must have been, from what mum says, about 3 or 4 when I decided to take it upon myself to join in with the lessons. And I think before I knew it, I think at about 4 or 5, I'd been put into Mr. Holland's junior squad with my two older sisters, who were 2 and 4 years older than me. And I just remember my main goal was to be as good as them. And obviously, being 2 and 4 years older, that was pretty tough as a 5-year-old. But to have older siblings for me was pretty. I guess it was like a carrot being dangled in front of a very competitive little 5-year-old. They definitely had, if you can imagine the Campbell sisters, that was my two sisters. They were the tallest, leanest, most athletic people, I guess you could imagine back in those days. And I was this really, really chubby, short little girl who was so desperate to be like her sisters. So, yeah, to answer your question, I was probably about 4, definitely 4 when I knew I learnt to swim, and then 5 when I was put into like a squad situation.
It's very funny that you say that because for me, it's virtually the exact same story. So how I began was I'm I'm the fourth in a family of 5, and I pretty much was just had to go to swimming just because my siblings did, and I was the same. I was just a little chubby kid that just was forced to go to swimming lessons all the time. So it's very funny that you mentioned that. I'm sure it's a very uh, common story amongst a lot of swimmers.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get dragged along, and I do feel sorry for my little brother Adam, who, he's 6 years younger. So by the time I really got into my swimming, he was dragged everywhere with his Matchbox cars to watch me swim. So, he probably spent just as much time at the pool as my parents did.
Very much the same as well, except we had Game Boys to take to the pool.
He didn't quite
uh,
have those. at Atari, but that was a bit hard to take to the pool.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry?
have you heard of Atari?
No, no, I got no idea what that is. I assume it's pretty similar.
Yeah, 10 times as big.
What inspired you to train harder, and who was your inspiration?
Definitely, without question, Tracy Wickham. Have you heard of her?
Yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah.
She was obviously one of Australia's greatest freestylers. And in 1982, when Brisbane held the Commonwealth Games, I remember watching Tracy swim the 400 freestyle. And I still remember when she walked out behind the blocks, she was so tiny, like she's only, I don't know, 5 foot nothing. And I remember saying to my dad, you know, how is she going to possibly win? She's so tiny compared to the others. And Dad said, well, you know, obviously she's got something inside of her that makes her just as good as everyone else. And I just literally remember watching her walk out behind the blocks. She had her Australian tracksuit on, green and gold togs. And I remember just sitting there as an 8-year-old and wanting that. I wanted to represent Australia. I wanted to swim the 400 freestyle, and to make things even more perfect in my dream was when she did win, the Queen presented her with her gold medal, and that became a dream of mine, that I was going to win the 400 freestyle. The Queen was going to be there to give me my medal. I had all these dreams as an 8-year-old. You know, I can't even tell you, when I watched the Australian national anthem go up when she won, it was just something that I knew I had to have. And back then, you know, as an 8-year-old, I think the most I ever had swum was a 50-meter freestyle race. And I remember one of my sisters said, you know, why is your goal of 400 freestyle? You can only do 50 meters. And in my mind that I wanted to do this 400 freestyle and emulate Tracy and exactly what she had done.
We've got a question just down below. Can you ask Hayley about her kicking?
Is that my mum? Kick. I don't know why. I'm sure it was something to do with my body. I just literally could not kick my legs. I literally relied on my upper body strength, which is probably why my legs were such like thick tree trunks. I never moved them. You know, I don't know. My coaches over the years would probably similar to you, Jacob, when you're training, is you're always working towards that last 50 in a training session, and doing the kick sets. And my kick sets were so horrendous. You know, I could be this person in the pool, but my kick sets, I literally couldn't keep up with the 10-year-olds, and I was going to the Olympics. So I don't know. I'm positive it had something to do with my physical makeup. I'm not sure, but yeah, I would desperately try to kick my legs, especially in that last 50 of any race. But it was a really poor attempt, and I think I might have got up to like a 4-beat kick at some stage, which was pretty good for me.
Hey, well, it worked. I mean, you couldn't do much more. I mean, maybe it was a blessing. Maybe if you're really good at kick, you wouldn't have been as fast a swimmer. So
maybe better breaststroke of those, so that would have definitely made it better. But maybe it potentially, you know, I missed out a knee injury or something. So yeah, maybe there was some positives to it.
Yeah. Who was the coach that pushed you the most, and why?
When I was with Mr. Holland as a junior swimmer, his pool was only 20 meters, and I remember I got to the age of 10, and he said to probably a group of us 10-year-olds who are actually quite good swimmers, he said, look, literally, I can't do any more with you guys. You need to go on to a coach that is going to take you now to interstate titles and things like that. So I moved to Karina Chandler, and we had a coach called John Wright, and Oh, Jacob, I can't even tell you sets that we do from probably the age of, I probably started there at 9 and I left as an 11-year-old because it was, I just had to, it was, I think he was leaving the club, the coach, so I needed to find somewhere else. But ask
Yeah.
anyone who was Karina Chandler in those days, we did sets that, you know, 11-year-old kids shouldn't be doing. You know, it wasn't abnormal for us to be doing 7K sessions as 10 and 11-year-olds, which, you know, you would just not do these days. But so that growing up was really tough. But I then went on to Mr. King, Joe King, who was at Langlands Park Pool. And at the 1984 Olympics, he actually had 10 Olympians. And my parents had actually heard him talk at my sister's, she went to State High, and he spoke at one of the swimming dinners. My sister, elder sister, was on the swim team, and Mum came home and said, you know, we think we might have found a great coach for you to go to. It's not that far from home. He's got all these Olympians. He might be able to fix your breaststroke. He might be able to fix your kick. But it wasn't, it was really only going to joking at Langlands Park or staying at Chandler and training with Laurie Lawrence, who I was petrified of. So I went with the King and a whole group of us. So if you can imagine your junior squad at St. Peter's, it was a very, very similar squad at Karina Chandler, just a lot of us, probably 12 to 14-year-old kids that went on then to Mr. King's squad. And it changed my life. And to answer your question, Mr. King, when I first started there, he was 73. And I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be a piece of cake. This old guy, he's not going to be that hard. But I tell you, I did sets with him that made me cry. And I look back and I think, you know, I tell Kai, who you know, Kai, my son,
Yeah.
and Jacob, I used to tell him the sets that we would have to do, and you know, they were just torturous. So he was definitely by far the toughest coach that I had, but probably the fairest coach. I can't really remember one time him getting angry or upset. Maybe he was worried about his blood pressure because he wasn't in you know, he was obviously a significant part of getting me to my first Australian team. So, and you know, up until that point, I really thought I couldn't do breaststroke. I just thought my body not meant to do breaststroke, therefore I'm just going to have to stick to freestyle and butterfly. But literally the day I started there, he got me in the pool and he said, let me have a look at your strokes. And I had to do 50 meters of each stroke, and I got to the breaststroke and he just went, wow, how but you know, he's, look, I think because your three strokes are quite good, we could potentially make you into a good medley swimmer with a lot of work on your breaststroke, which made me happy because it meant I could avoid butterfly sets. So I started to do a bit when sort of my medley, really when I was probably about 13.
Yeah. Did you have a competitor that you feared?
Probably two. One's Julie McDonald. Who's really good friends. She comes in and into my shop now, and every time I see her walk into my shop, I start getting all panicked because I think, what's she gonna say? But I think really, I didn't fear. It was more that, you know, I guess I was a naturally calm person. And Julie, because she trained with Laurie, and you know, Laurie's personality is so out there and loud. Julie was exactly the same. So I think she took every opportunity in the marshalling area in warm up to let everyone know she was there. And he happened to be the Australian champion of the races that I was potentially hoping to represent my country for. She was obviously one of my main competitors, along with Janelle Elford, who's now obviously Lani Pallister's mum. And, you know, but she, I guess because of her personality, she really put me off my game. And then Janet Evans, of course, who was the American world record holder, pretty similar. Just before Katie Ledecky's time, she held, you know, world records in 400 free, 800 free, 1500 free. So she, I guess, was the person from about 1988. I watched, or actually 87, I watched her when I was 13. I went out to Chandler when they had the Pan Pacs here, and I'm not kidding, she probably weighed about 40 kilos and was about 5 foot tall. I just, once again, very reminiscent of Tracy Wickham. And she just got in the pool and just went like a rocket. So I guess she was someone, I guess, not that I feared, but she was definitely my nemesis in a good way. Like we really well, but she was someone that I knew I potentially had to work towards beating.
Yeah. What is the hardest session that you've ever done? So you mentioned the you know, the coach that pushed you the most. So out of all the grueling distance sessions that you've done, is there one that will stick in your mind forever?
Yeah, probably the worst thing I had to when I was with that coach, we used to, and I think you guys do it at St. Peter's Western, we used to do get out swims, and our coach would choose one person to do a get out swim, and if they achieved the time, we would all get out. So he would 9 out of 10 times choose me to do the get out swim, and it was usually had to beat a Queensland record. So I think he used to do it because Laurie was on the other school, and anyway, that was probably the most torturous thing that I had to do, because I felt as a 10-year-old the weight of my squad on my shoulders. That was probably torturous. But the hardest set that I ever did was definitely with Mr. King, and it was before the 1991 World Championships. My medley was actually probably at its best at that period of time, and he had us, myself and 3 other distance swimmers, we had to do 2,400 IMs. We had to do a K warm-up, 2,400 IMs, 6 minutes, and we had to aim to do the first 10 under 5:30, the next 5 under 5:15, and the next 5 under 5 minutes. So that was probably the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
That day, I decided in my mind that I was going to be a 1,500 swimmer as well. This was probably 93. My coach had it in his head that because I wanted to be a 1,500 metre swimmer, and it was the first time as a female I was going to swim a 1,500 metre race for Australia. Every Tuesday morning, their session used to be 4 1,500s. So 80, 85, 90% all out at the end. So, you know, to do a 4.5K set, that was more torturous than it was hard. It was very boring. So as if you wouldn't be a sprinter. Kai always says,
well, yeah.
And I'm like, I couldn't kick my legs, so I had to be. So yeah.
Maybe that's why Kai's a sprinter. You know, you've scared him off with all these, you know, terrible sets that you've done in the past.
It's my obvious. Get any leg genes from me, the tall, long, skinny. Yeah, he's very well. Any sprinters are very lucky.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a swimmer to stay focused if they feel others in their squad are being mean to them?
Ooh, wow, I'll use my psychology degree for this one. That's a really hard one. You know, to think of someone being mean to someone at training is quite sad, to be honest. Look, I guess with any type of bullying or, you know, someone being mean, especially sort of in a team setting like that, you obviously need to go to your parents first and tell them. It's something I guess no one should put up with. So, you know, staying focused in terms of, you know, getting potentially bullied while you're competing or swimming, I'd say firstly speak to your parents, and then the parents need to go and speak to the coach. But yeah, definitely number one, don't put up with it. But you know, firstly seek all the help you can get, and then obviously we all know from life that people only really bully others or are mean to others because they've got something negative going on in their life. So my advice would be talk to people, and then obviously try to understand with yourself within yourself that it's got nothing to do with you and it's everything to do with the other person.
Yeah, great answer. What was your favorite event to swim? So, predominantly you raced only distance events, but on the odd occasion, would you be allowed by your coaches to throw in a sneaky 100 freestyle or anything like that you enjoyed doing?
Look, back in my day, Jacob, we lived to swim meets, regardless of if we'd been to Olympics, World Championships, Commonwealth Games. We had to go to every Brisbane and Queensland swim meet and do every event that we could physically swim in. So it was not unusual for me to do an 8K session on a Saturday morning, go straight out to Chandler and have 10 events. So I would literally have to do 100 free, 100 breast, 100 back, 200 fly, 400 IM, 800 free, like as much. I hope your coaches are watching, but I think he viewed it as much racing you could do, regardless of what it was. It didn't matter if it was 50s or 100s or 800s or 1500s. He was all about getting that race practice and working on the technical aspects of the sprint races in particular. I was not a great diver, turner. Actually, I don't know how I was a good swimmer. I was bad at everything, but the middle part. But yeah, I used to love going 100 breaststroke, obviously, because even finishing it was a big, a big deal for me. But yeah, probably my favorite race, swimming race I loved racing was the 200 free. You know, because it wasn't quite a sprint and it wasn't far enough to be a distance event. And I did love the technical aspect of medley swimming because I would literally get quite far ahead in the butterfly and backstroke leg. And then, of course, when I got to breaststroke, it really was, when are they going to catch me type scenario. So I would literally always be caught and passed. And of course, as you know, when you touch for the breaststroke leg and go into the freestyle, there's that extra length made when they go freestyle. And I guess I loved mowing people down. So I just loved the fact that I think I trained my brain, to be honest, to really have a lot of self-belief that I could potentially mow someone down who had 15 meters on me. So, you know, to have that mindset, I guess very similar to someone like Cole Chalmers, who's able to come home in that last 50 and 100 freestyle and the last 100 of a 200, when you practice it in training and then you keep pulling it off in a race and it works. And I don't know, there's something that happens inside you that you're able to know that regardless of how you're going by the breaststroke leg, you can always pull something out.
Yeah. What was your favorite achievement that you had during your swimming career? So there's plenty there to pick from. So what's your favorite?
Definitely I've got two. Definitely the 200 freestyle at the 1991 World Championships in Perth. I actually didn't. I swam the 200 free at World Championship trials, and I came third, and behind Julie McDonald, who was not a 200 freestyler, so it was behind her and another girl. And I remember at I think it was the training camp about 3 weeks before World Championships. The head coach at the time, Don Talbot, came up to myself and my coach, Mr. King, and said, look, Julie McDonald doesn't want to swim the 200 free, so we're going to put Hayley in. And I said, I don't want to swim it because I hadn't trained for it. Because 400 freestyle, 400 IM, and I just done no 200 freestyle training. So I said, thanks anyway, but I don't want to do it. And he said, well, asking you, I'm telling you that you're doing it, so prepare yourself that on day 2, so it was the day after the 400 IM and the day before the 400 medley, which is 400 freestyle, which is why I didn't want to do it, because it was the day before my main event. He said, get prepared for it because you're going to swim it. So at that stage, my best was 2 minutes, which these days is just ridiculously slow. I think the world record holder at the time was a girl called Francesca van Elmsenick, and she was at 1:57. So to go in at 2 minutes was quite substantially slower. But on that first night when I had the 400 IM, I was probably ranked, I won at the Commonwealth Games the year before in 1990, and I probably went ranked 7th. And I made it into the final, and I was just honestly happy to make it into the final of that race. And because, like I said, I was focusing on the 400 freestyle. And I don't know, it's similar to what I was telling you about that breaststroke leg. Actually coming second at the backstroke. And, you know, obviously the commentators had no idea that I was so bad at breaststroke. They were so excited I was coming second, and they were like, oh God, what's happening? And I was like, that was actually one of my best 100 breaststroke legs. But we went from 2nd to 5th, and a long way, I was 5th. And I don't know, it was, you know, the Australian crowd just got behind me, and I ended up coming second by 100th of a second to a Chinese girl. And I think that wasn't answering your question, but I think that on the first night really made me feel good about going into the 200 freestyle the following day, because I thought to myself, well, I've got a medal. So to be 16 and have a silver world championship medal, I could have packed my bags and gone home right then. I was so excited. You know, I thought, well, I'll use this 200 free to, you know, warm up for the 400 the next day. And I did my heat swim, and back in those days, I think I'm obviously different now. You do your fastest heats first, is that right?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the meet, but yeah, some meets they go. I've noticed for Queensland state champs, they go first. Yep.
So back in my day, you only ever had sort of slowest to fastest, and I was in the first fastest heat, so I was still third. You know, I still had 2 more heats after me, and I did 2:02 in my heat. Yeah, 2:02. And I remember swimming and thinking, okay, I felt pretty good. I feel pretty good going into tomorrow. I didn't make the final, that's okay. And then literally my coach got a kickboard and stopped me in the warm down pool and said, you need to get yourself prepared for tonight. And I said, we had the 4x2 race, so I knew I was swimming the relay that night. And he said, you made it into lane 8. And I said, are you kidding? And he said, no, you made it by 400ths of a second. So I was upset that I made it, which I think I'm so disappointed in myself now, thinking I was disappointed that I made it. I don't know. It was just one of those days where everything worked. I had the perfect sleep. I had a good massage. I was just pretty relaxed, I think, because I was in lane 8. No one expected in the swimming world, obviously, thought I had a chance in hell of even winning. But I had this plan going in that I would stick with this Romanian swimmer next to me who I knew was a good 100-meter swimmer. And so I thought if I stay with her for as long as I can, then I could potentially come away with at least a PB. And she went around the 100 first, and I was just behind her in second, which I didn't know because I was in lane 8 and she was huge and she was next to me. So I literally couldn't see anything that was happening past her. And I remember I got the 125 and she was slowing, and all I remember thinking in my head was go. And I kicked as best as I could, probably got up to a 3 beat. But I remember I turned at the 150 and I turned facing the swimmers along the side of the pool, and I was in the lead, and I just thought, go girl. So I literally had to like three times in the last 50 meters. And can you still see me?
Oh, it's just dropped out. Hang on. Yep. No, you're back. There it goes.
So Janet Evans was in the race. Masses, Francesca Van Elmsnick, the world champion. Nicole Hazlett, the 100-meter winner from the previous night. And I just thought, oh shit, I'm winning. And I don't even know if I breathed much the last 50, but yeah, I actually won. And yeah, look, by far, out of everything I did, that was, it's bad to say at 16, you have your best swim ever, but because it was in front of an Australian crowd, my mum and dad and my little brother had been given box seats right next to lane 8 by Australian Swimming. And, to have them so close, and my brother had, the green and yellow face paint on, and my parents were, their Australian stuff on. Yeah, it was just something that as a 16-year-old, I'll obviously never forget.
Yeah. What do you think made you such a world-class athlete? So there's a lot of, I guess, aspects that make a world-class athlete, but was there one thing that you just did way better than anyone else and no one could match you in?
Well, I wouldn't say I was unmatched, because there was still a lot of people better than me, like Janet Evans and various other people. But I guess when you get to my age, Jacob, I'm 46, you understanding of strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and you can definitely look back in time over situations that you've had to deal with, whether it be in sport or in life, and you can look back and think, God, why did I do that? Why didn't I do this instead? Why wasn't I more this type of person? And I guess one thing that I do know for sure is that I always trained hard. It was something that I think, like I said to you initially, growing up in a household with two older sisters who I was desperate to be as good as, instilled in me, I guess, a determination from a really, really young age. And I loved swimming so much. And winning as a junior swimmer was something that was quite addictive. So I guess, I was always told by all of my coaches throughout my career that, hard work never doesn't pay off, regardless of the outcome at the end of the day. And it's something that I definitely know that I carried through from my swimming career as a business owner, that I will always work hard. And obviously having goals, I never went into a swimming calendar year where I didn't have a specific goal that I wanted to reach. So yeah, training hard and being really respectful of all of my coaches. I don't think there was one day where they didn't tell me to do something that I didn't do it. So I guess you could say I was very trainable. And yeah, we were just taught from a very young age when I was with Mr. Holland as a junior that, You say thank you to your coaches at the end of the session, which I know Kai does with Dean and Maxi, and that's something that we've always said. You know, regardless of the outcome of a race, you're always humble. You stay humble no matter what level you get to. But I think I also was told by one of my coaches, I think it might have been Mr. King, when I was sort of on that precipice of making my first Australian team. He said, you know, you're about to become potentially one of Australia's best freestylers. So you have to understand now that it's not like when you were young where you could jump in the pool at any age and do a PB. You have to understand now that if you do 1 second over your best time, you have to take away from that. That's still a great swim. So I think, you know, I always remembered that it wasn't always about the PB and or even getting a medal. It was about, you know, doing the best you could on the day. So, and as you know, being a swimmer, you don't know how you're going to wake up and feel. So you just got to hope to heck that if you're swimming at the Olympics, it's a good day. So, but if it's not, if you've just got to deal with it. And when you get to my age, you sort of realize that, you know, I can look back and think I did the very best I could in every single race that I raced in. So,
given your experience in the sport, what advice would you give to a young athlete? And do you give the same advice to your son, Kai?
As if Kai would listen to me. I was telling him, talking about, and I always say to him, Kai, I'm a triple champion. And he goes, Mum, you're just so old school. You don't know what goes on. But no, I guess I now that he trains at St. Peter's, we really don't have to say much to him at all. You know, Dean and Maxi do everything, as you know. But probably the best advice I'd give young swimmers that we sort of gave to both our boys, who Jacob was a swimmer as well, was to train hard. Don't waste your coach's time, and to really focus on the actual goals that you want to achieve, and don't get sidetracked by anything else that's going on around you or other people or other situations. And I guess Kai has taken that on board. He, you know, we've probably got, I won't show you, it's on the fridge next to me, but pretty much written his goal times for 50, 100, 200 on a lot of walls in our house. And I guess he has learnt that from me. Ever since I was little, I was told by Mr. Holland to write my goals down, and I think he's done exactly the same thing. He's written exact splits down that he wants to achieve over the next year and the next 2 years. So I guess, yeah, to answer your question, it's all about writing down your goals and having a really succinct idea about how you're going to get there, and always make sure that the goals are doable. It's no use writing down a world record time if you're, say, 10 seconds on a 100-meter freestyle. So it's always good to have mini goals to an ultimate goal.
Did you have a favourite person on the Australian swim team?
Literally anyone that would probably, if it'll get in funny, get in trouble. People thought I was so quiet, but I would gravitate towards anyone that was mucking around or getting in trouble. Probably like one of the first junior teams I was on was with a girl called Jenny McMahon, who is a 200 freestyler, same age as me, and she came second to me at the Commonwealth Games, and we were really good friends, and I roomed with her. So probably her. Robert van der Zand, because he was crazy. We're talking about the crazy people. Grant Hackett, also being on the team with him, I never saw Grant unhappy. He was always cracking jokes. he'd call me chicken. He was just someone to be on the team. Very fun. Yeah. So anyone generally cracking jokes, because you know what it's like. It's such a hard environment that being around
Yeah.
people in the mood is actually quite refreshing for everyone. But I couldn't go past my roomie, Nicole Livingston. Look, after 91, pretty much the 4 or 5 girls that swam in my squad with Mr. King stopped swimming. I think, as we know, it can be that age, I guess, around 15, 16, 17, where you can be a really good swimmer and then all of a sudden decide that you don't want to swim anymore. So I had this mass exodus of all my friends that I trained with didn't make the 92 Olympics. So they put me in with Nicole Livingston because she had no one and I had no one. So they paired us up together. And I think looking back, they probably paired her with me because she was normal and mature. So they thought, oh, go with someone mature. But she is someone that I looked up to as a swimmer. And so to be rooming with her was initially quite daunting. But Nicole was so calm. You know, she was obviously Australia's best backstroker at the time. And, you know, just to have someone 3 years older than me in a room with me and to see the way she conducted herself, you know, she was always on the committees in charge of, you know, the swimmers. So, you know, I really looked up to her and still do. So I guess she wasn't crazy, but she was definitely one of my favourite people on the team.
Was it an easy transition to retire after sport? You know, given you've done it your whole life, and swimming being such a demanding sport in training and traveling and racing, how was it for you? How was your experience?
Well, I guess it was. I had a plan that because I didn't go to uni, so which I regret now. I look back and I think, you know, I wish I had have realised that I could have done a part-time university course. But back in those days, being a distance swimmer, it wasn't unusual to spend 6 hours actually physically in the pool. So mentally and physically, I wouldn't have had the capacity to do any type of degree really. And I don't even know if I'd get into a uni degree back then, but I barely went to year 11 and 12. But anyway, that's another story. You know, I think I always had a plan. I knew that I wanted to open up a swim school, and it was just a matter of how and when. And after, I remember being at the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, and literally I swam really well at the trials, and then literally got there, and I thought, I'm mentally and physically exhausted, and I haven't even started racing. It was the first time that I'd represented Australia that I'd felt like that. I just felt completely drained. And it was the first time that I hadn't made a final as an Australian swimmer. And so to say I was devastated would be an understatement. So I literally didn't even wait around for the second week of the games. You know how you wait around and you watch the closing ceremony, in that. I literally, the day after my 800 free, I got on a plane, came home to Brisbane, and I thought, right, I'm going to have the biggest break I've ever had because I mentally and physically need it. So I'm going to have 2 weeks off, 2 whole weeks off, unheard of. And then it got to 2 weeks, and I thought, I can't do it. I can't go back. And it got to 4 weeks, and I thought, I can't go back. And at that stage, I was engaged to be married, and my fiance, Greg, at the time, who's now my husband, so it wasn't a fiance at the time. We started to think about, okay, what are you going to go? He kept saying to me, "Are you going to go back or what?" And I said, I just don't know if I really want to. And he's like, "Oh, well, you know, you're going to have to think about what you want to do." And we had planned to get married the following year in August. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to give triathlons a go. So I bought a bike. Um, I don't know where I got, I think it was just, I didn't want to give up swimming, but I needed a mental break. So I did a few
Yeah.
triathlons, and before I knew it, our wedding had come around and I fell pregnant with Jacob. So I thought, okay, I'm really not going now. And it really wasn't my intention not to go back. I just, I didn't retire. It was just life just happened, and so I had Jacob in April of '98, and I remember watching the Commonwealth Games on TV, and a girl, Australian girl, Rachel Harris, won the 800-meter freestyle, and she won it in a time that was slower than my personal best. And I remember saying to Greg, I think that I want to go back to swimming. And he was like, oh God. He was used to me having ridiculous ideas, but he said, look, this is a big decision because we had a baby. And he said, look, if you really want to do this, he'd just got a job as a physio at Greenslopes Hospital. And he said, look, if you really want to do this, I could potentially go part-time, which was really great for him. So I said, let me think about it. And at the time, I was the ambassador for Jenny Craig. So I had actually got down to lighter than my race weight. I was 62 kilos by the time I finished on Jenny Craig. And I thought, well, I physically feel like I could get back in the water. And I thought, well, I won't make a comeback, so to speak. I'll just start doing my own sessions to see if I can get fit. And I got fit really, really quickly, and rang my coach, who at that stage was John Carew, who was Kieran Perkins' coach, and Ella Ramsey's dad, Heath Ramsey, who you probably know. You know Heath?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was with Kieran and Heath Ramsey out at UQ, and I rang Mr. Carew at the start of 1999, and I said, I want to make an attempt to swim at next year's open water world championship. So it didn't even initially have anything to do with pool swimming. It was all about open water swimming. And he's like, but you're like 27, you're like old. When I was 26, do you really want to do it? What about all the reasons why you wanted to stop? Do you still feel the same? And I said, no, I'm totally new me. And, he said, well, do you think that at your age you could do open water swimming? Because at that stage it was talked about potentially being an Olympic sport for 2004. So I said, look, I want to give it a crack. The World Championships are next year in Hawaii. I really wanted to go to Hawaii. And I said, I won't waste your time. I'm not coming back to muck around. I will really train hard. And he said, okay, but I've got Kieran and Heath, they're aiming towards the Olympics, so they're going to be my main focus. So if I don't pay you any attention, don't be upset. And I was like, no, that sounds good. And so literally I got fit really, really quick. And he said, look, I think you should go to the Olympic trials and try for the 800 freestyle. And I said, okay, I will. I'll go and try. But, my main focus is this world championship team. So I actually made the world championship team the month before I went to Olympic trials. And that was probably my second favourite swimming as well, was that 800 freestyle trials for the 2000 Olympics. So I was racing the girl that had won the Commonwealth Games that I told you I'd been watching on TV. And it was just, it was a night that I'll never forget. And I had Jacob as a 2-year-old in the stand. And, to make that Sydney Olympic team was very unexpected. And, totally not in my plan. But, it was a good unexpected thing to happen.
Yeah. Wow. Now onto your small business. So you've got a little small business in Balmoral called Coming Up Roses. And before we kick the questions off, I want to say thank you, because last year my missus has her birthday in September, and I had absolutely no idea what to get her. and and someone at the pool mentioned that you have a shop in Balmoral. So then I ducked in there, and she loves it.
Oh,
So thanks for that. You saved my life.
no, that's good to know. That's the idea.
um,
Helping helping the men out.
yeah,
I mean,
helping men, because yeah, we're hopeless at shopping for women. Let me tell you. Um,
yeah.
so what products do you sell at Coming Up Roses?
Um, well, you name it, I sell it, literally. It started off as quite a small shop. I actually, like I said, I actually did start a swim school. Oh, my hair's looking terrible. Sorry. I came straight from work. Sorry. Uh, God, I look old now. I did start a swim school at Westfield Carindale, and I loved it, and I had it there for years. And then one day Westfield came into the swim school and said, um, just letting you know, you got a year left and we're going to demolish the swim school and there's going to be a Coles here. So I obviously panicked, as any business owner would, because I'd built my swim school up, which I loved. Loved all the families, absolutely adored the kids. I thought this was my future. I had a junior squad happening at Cooper Estate School. And to be told, by Westfield that they were demolishing it was something that I didn't even fathom. And they said, well, there's on page 595 of the contract that you sign, there is a demolition clause.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, didn't read that page. But I was looking around for a block of land and to actually put the pool on, and came across Coming Up Roses instead, which is why I literally have the shop. But it did start off as quite a small shop, basically selling, I guess, pampery type stuff like candles and hand creams and very girly related things. But now I've transformed it into this treasure trove of, I guess, if you've heard of the website Hard to Find, it's the website's called Hard to Find, but it's literally things similar to what you would are hard to find. Lots of mostly funny things, inappropriate things, lots of board games, puzzles, um, men's undies, still have the candles, but yeah, it's, I guess, anything that you can find at Myers or DJ's is not in my shop. So I try to source things that are really different and a lot of really fun, cool stuff.
In saying that, what is the most popular product that you sell?
Probably the socks with inappropriate comments on them. So anything with a swear word on it is generally the most popular. That's gas candles. So yeah, and since love you too, Elizabeth. Since virus hit, I watched TV like a lot of business owners watched on that Sunday night when Scott Morrison announced who was going to be able to stay open and closed. And, Greg and myself, he owns a physio practice. We sat there waiting for them to say physiotherapists and retailers, but he didn't mention retail stores. So I remember I went to the shop that Monday and literally every board game and jigsaw puzzle I owned was gone. And I thought, God, I don't know whether to reorder because I don't know if I'm going to be open. But I reordered a stack of board games and jigsaw puzzles, and I never shut. So literally, probably that's been the biggest seller since March 24th have been jigsaw puzzles, outdoor wooden game sets, board games, and the stuff with swear words. So yeah.
Well, it's always a hit. I mean, you can get away with it anytime for like friends and family. So
yeah, I've got these like little games, and they're called it's just like a little pack of cards thing, but it's called I find this funny, but it's called I can't even say it. Millennial A.
yeah.
counter and she goes, I don't get it. AF, what does that mean? And I was like, you know, millennial. And she goes, no, I don't get it. Oh, hi, Adam. So, like, very, I don't know. Anyway, it's fun to explain things to people in the shop because it's like, anyway.
I guess you've already answered this last question, but I'll say it anyway. So did you always want to open a store like Coming Up Roses? And I guess a follow-up to that, so I've just thought about this on the spot. How did you come up with the name Coming Up Roses?
Well, I actually didn't come up with it, and it was always my intention to change it because when I initially bought the premises, it was off two ladies and a man who they actually lived at the back of the shop, and he was very big into gardening, and it was more of a gift slash furniture store, which I knew I wanted to sort of really, really change it. And obviously I wasn't living there, so my idea was to take a wall out of, because it's like an old Queenslander. So my idea, God, my hair looks terrible. Sorry.
No, it doesn't.
It's like, you know, the idea all out and extend the shop because it's an old Queenslander, and my idea was extend and then change the name to something that was a little bit more reflective of what I sold. But you know, when I took the wall out, I actually went to a marketing business and I said, you know, my shop's called Coming Up Roses. I literally get people coming into my store wanting to buy a dozen roses, and I don't sell flowers, so it's confusing. And he said, well, you know, is that the only reason why you want to change it? And I said, you know, yeah. And he said, look, is it successful? Is it doing well? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, look, I'm probably going to lose your business, but I wouldn't change the name of it if it's not doing badly. So I ended up keeping the name, but I still get the odd male who comes in for a dozen roses. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I don't sell flowers. And they say, but you know, it's Coming Up Roses. And I'm like, it's like a saying. So anyway, so yeah, I meant to call it something else. So yeah, I can't say that I came up with the name.
Well, good story anyway. So what is one product that you would like to stock in future?
Oh, once. You need to come into my shop because it's literally got everything. I literally can't think of anything. I literally can't pack anything more into my premises.
Yeah, yeah.
I should be at the annual trade fair at the moment buying everything for Christmas, but we've had to do it virtually. So over the next month, I'll start getting in all my new season Christmas things. So there's really not anything more that I really cater for the people who like stationery, journaling, the men's section. It's got a whole heap of cool men's facial products, funny men's things, board games, candles, pampery stuff, kids, babies, teaware, homewares. There's really not anything that I can think of, to be honest, that I can literally fit into my shop. It's quite packed. So maybe,
Yeah.
to be honest, very hard to find really good men's products. So if you know, I have a range, but I would love to extend on it. So if you have any that you like,
I will let you know. I will let you know. And yeah, that was a tough question. Seeing as though, so when the last time I went into your store,
just turning the light on. Sorry, I feel like I'm in
oh no, that's all right. It's getting dark now. Yeah. Yeah, last time I went into your store, it took me quite a while to actually pick something out. So I think I ended up getting hand care set, candles and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think this live is going to end automatically. but I think we might have to do another one. So on to the Biggest Loser next. What was the most memorable time on the show? I think it's going to end. Sorry about that. I guess we've got a part 2 by default now. I'll just wait till Hayley jumps on. Whoops. Didn't realize it was going to end.
I probably should have told you. I probably should have told you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't even realize that this had a timer. We're just having such a great chat that, time got carried away.
I'm not going to like that story. That Instagram.
So on to the Biggest Loser. You spent your time there as a host for how many seasons were you on there for?
5 seasons. So
yeah.
2009, I think, and then I finished in 2014. So yeah, 5 seasons. So I think you asked what was my most memorable time.
Yep, time on the show. Yep.
That's really hard because we took 4 months to film a season, so that's a significant amount of situations that happen. I guess for me, if I look back, my first day that I filmed was a standout to me as being literally one of the scariest days of my life, way beyond competing at the Olympics. I still remember turning up where we were filming on that day, and I was a massive fan of The Biggest Loser, the previous 4 seasons. So to turn up on and see something so real was so scary. And I remember I was in the makeup room getting ready, and Michelle Bridges walked in, and I had a major oh my god, I was like trying to be so cool about seeing her in the flesh. And then I met Shannon shortly after that, and that whole day, to be honest, I felt so sick. I was just literally was not ever made to do TV, really. So I completely felt like a fish out of water. It was so foreign to me to be in an environment that was TV related. I had to do so many takes that first day. It was just horrible. So that day, doing my first scene with Steve, the commando, was scary because the first season, I don't know if you watched it, but he would come on and he wasn't one of the trainers per se. He would come onto a series and whip 2 people away to do some secret training business. So I guess because of he had this superhero type persona, being the commando, to do the first day of filming with him was, I didn't actually meet him. I was there delivering a line, and he was to drive his truck, big sort of army truck, down, get out of the truck and stand next to me. And it was literally, that's how I met him. And I was just like freaking out. But yeah, probably meeting the trainers was a standout to me. But I remember one of the first eliminations that I had to do of the contestants was really, really hard. 2 sisters had come onto the show, and one of the sisters was being eliminated, which means the sisters had to be split up. And I couldn't get through it. It was, I cried, and I couldn't even get out. Dana, you've been eliminated. I just bawled my eyes out. And looking back, I think, my God, I wasted production crew's time because I literally couldn't collect myself just to see them sitting opposite me, and knowing that they were going to be separated was something that was extremely hard. So I guess eliminations were always a really tough day for me because I did have a bond with the contestants, and I hated seeing them leave. But yeah, that probably, the weigh-in days were big, because you never knew how much weight people were going to lose, and their weight loss really, was the sole reason whether they'd go into elimination or not. So, I guess their weigh-in day is like an Olympic Games. So it's their, day, seeing if their efforts had come to fruition. So any weigh-in day and elimination was probably memorable for me.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite trainer? You didn't?
What do I want to say? No, they were all really different. When I really, really looked up to Michelle as a female, she, when I guess I was in my second season, is when the whole Michelle Bridges brand name really exploded. So to watch that unfold and her start becoming more of this fitness icon in Australia was amazing to watch as a female. And I had my shop at that point. Not that it's anywhere near like 12 WBT, but it was good to watch her work ethic and how hard she worked at starting a business and just growing it. So that was great to watch. Shannon, I really liked because he was very much a family person. He was very, very connected to his parents, and they all lived very close to where we filmed. So we'd spend a bit of time with his parents as well. Steve, I didn't spend a lot of time with because, like I said, he was someone that came in as a trainer, but he was a bit of a larrikin. So, we all had a lot of fun on set. So yeah, I didn't really have a favourite.
That's all right. I won't dob you into them. So, sorry.
No, nothing.
So last question, we'll mention your psychology degree. You're a third year student in the course. So what made you decide to study psychology? And what would you like to do with the degree once you've graduated?
Well, I guess I probably mentioned an hour or so ago that
yeah.
a swimmer, I just didn't even fathom that I could do a degree. I just had no time whatsoever. So, and then before I knew it, I was a mum and I had the swim school. So to do a degree was something that I didn't even think about, didn't even have time. And then, of course, when I had the shop and I was doing Biggest Loser, a degree I wasn't even thinking about it. But I guess when my eldest son, Jacob, finished grade 12 and he was starting uni, I actually went to pick him up at UQ there at the walkover bridge because he'd never wanted to pay for parking. So I had to go and get him. So I was waiting for him at the walkover bridge and I saw all of these old people, mature, my age, walking over the bridge with packs, and it didn't occur to me that they actually might be tutors or lecturers, but I thought they were students. And I started to think, that looks like something that I don't look too old to do. And I've always been interested in psychology. So I, just was lucky enough to be accepted by Swinburne. And it was very difficult to get in, obviously, because I'd finished year 12 so many years ago. But look, my goals, third year, I'm only doing it part-time, so it is a 4-year degree. So I'm halfway through my third year and I love it. I wish I had have done it 10 years ago. But, I guess my goal is I will never not have the shop. The shop is my life. So I don't potentially know what I'll do with it. Kai is actually doing psychology in year 11. So I think he's actually, has potential to probably become a psychologist before me. But I think the goal for me is to learn as much as I can. And it's certainly helped me understand a lot of different people and their personalities in my life. And I've always liked, as you can tell, talking. So I have fantastic conversations and have had with families at the swim school and then customers at my shop. And, I potentially could go into, sports psychology or something like that. But I guess at this stage, my goal is to potentially do it part-time.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. That's all the questions that we've got for you. No, it's all right. We had a great chat and we got through plenty. So for all our viewers, they've got heaps to get through. And no, there's some great stories in there. Like you've lived a great life through your swimming career, and that's great. Thank you again so much for coming on and taking the time out.
No, thank you, and good luck with your injury as well.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye, Hayley.
Hey, see you guys.
All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Next week we've got an Australian or an ex-Australian swimmer who is now a coach. So there's a little hint for you. I'll post up a little silhouette in the middle of the week for you guys to have a bit of a guess. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Bye.